Hello and welcome along to this session at stage 2 of the SportsPro Asia Summit. My name is Sid Kohli. I'm a TV sports presenter and producer, and I'll be moderating this fireside chat as we discuss the NBA strategy for India and APAC as they grow their current market share and target new audiences. Now, it's only been a few days since we watched the LA Lakers blitz through the Western Conference before taking on the Miami Heat in the NBA final. And despite Jimmy Butler being on fire, it was LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Frank Vogel's men who finally prevailed, winning championship number 17 for the Lakers, matching the record of the Boston Celtics. Now, it's no secret that the NBA is one of the world's most exciting sports leagues, and the Indian market, one of the world's most promising economies. With over 90 million fans having sampled the product in 2019, and a historic set of preseason games between the Sacramento Kings and Indiana Pacers in Mumbai, is the NBA finally set to capitalize on India's burgeoning middle class and its thriving sports culture? Can the NBA compete with international leagues like the Premier League, as well as domestic ones like the IPL, Pro Kabaddi, and the Indian Super League? And what about APAC? What is the NBA's strategy to continue growing in markets such as Japan, Indonesia, and the Philippines, leading up to the Tokyo Olympics and the Southeast Asia-based FIBA World Cup in 2023? Those are the questions on today's agenda as we're joined by Executive Vice President and Managing Director of NBA Asia, Scott Levy. Now, Scott has been in his role since 2009, and he oversees development and expansion of the NBA's branding and basketball initiatives all across Asia, excluding Greater China. He also directs all of the NBA's Asia business groups. Now, that includes media distribution, marketing partnerships, events, and also merchandising. Hello, Scott. Thanks for joining us, and a very good evening to you in Hong Kong.
Hi, Sid. Great to be here. Thanks for allowing me to join, and looking forward to a great chat.
Great to have you. Now, just before we begin, a bit of housekeeping. Please keep your questions coming as we try and take as many as possible over the next 35 minutes via swap card. You can also upvote questions posted by others in case you would like to see them answered by Scott. And with that, let's jump straight into the discussion. Now, Scott, could you start by telling us a bit more about yourself and also shining some light on your rather interesting journey leading up to your current role?
Sure. Well, I was born in New York and spent most of my time there growing up. And after university, I had my first chance to travel outside the US. And I went to Europe to work and travel for a year. And it was that experience really that sparked something in me that hasn't diminished yet. Since then, all I've wanted to do is to travel and engage with people and cultures from around the world. So after working in advertising for a few years, my wife and I quit our jobs and we backpacked from Beijing to Queensland, New Zealand for 6 months. Just an amazing and sometimes really challenging experience, but we really fell in love with the region. And then when I got back, my life at the NBA started. I was lucky enough to land in a role requiring travel and working for a sports league with a long-term plan for international growth. I've now been at the league for over 20 years, originally in the New York office and now here in Hong Kong. It was a break, of course, in between those two roles where I traveled a little bit again, and this time bringing the family along. So it's been an amazing ride, and now living and working in Asia has only increased my interest in traveling even more. So hopefully for all of us, it won't be too much longer before we can start exploring the world again.
Thank you, Scott. That is quite the journey in the truest sense of the word. Now, of course, you oversee a number of markets in Asia, which are actually quite different. Let's start with India for this conversation. Now, I alluded to the preseason games between the Sacramento Kings and the Indiana Pacers. The Sacramento Kings, of course, has an Indian-born owner in Vivek Ranadive, who described these games as a dream come true. Could you tell us a bit about these games and how that kind of ties in to your vision for this market?
It was more than a decade ago where we made India a priority for the NBA. And since then, we've been focused on building our fan base and introducing the game in different ways. I think it was about 7 years ago. I was in Mumbai with Commissioner Adam Silver, and as you said, Sacramento Kings owner and proud Mumbaiker Vivek Ranadive. We did a youth clinic with hundreds of kids in conjunction with the Reliance Foundation. Nita Ambani was there as well. And we knew there was something special that was happening there. Participation at a young age is really important. And it was clear that the kids understood the game, enjoyed the experience, and the parents and the teachers were enthusiastic as well. Now, our goal from there was to help build the infrastructure for the sport, really to ensure there's equipment, that there's teachers and coaches, continuing to improve their knowledge of the game and help them to connect with the kids. We now have a pathway in place in India that allows kids to play basketball from as young as 5 years old and really continue all the way to the NBA. It starts with our Reliance and Foundation Junior Mba Program, which is free and nationwide. Kids can then move into the more advanced training through our basketball schools program in partnership with India on Track. From there, we have the ACG NBA Jump Talent Search, which helps identify kids to join the NBA Academy. And all of this is happening within India. For our academy, we've now had 13 players move to the US to play basketball, including Principal Singh, who has joined the NBA G League. The others are playing in high school or university. So this past October, working with the local basketball federation, the BFI, the Reliance Foundation, our media partners, Sony, the local governments, we brought the Sacramento Kings and the Indiana Pacers to play the first ever local games from a North American sports league. Now, and these games allow our fans to experience the real NBA without really leaving home. But we have activities outside the arena as well, of course, because we want as many people to participate in the experience, even if you don't have a ticket for a game. We want you to feel what it's like to have the NBA in your home market. So the games are exciting and important, but they're really one piece of a much broader plan to grow the sport of basketball in India.
Thank you, Scott. You've mentioned quite a few initiatives over there, including the Junior NBA, which we will discuss in a bit more detail a little later on. But quite broadly speaking, in terms of positioning the league, if you look at numbers from 2018-19, the NBA had a combined viewership of 91 million in India, which are really impressive numbers. Granted, of course, India is a massive market. In terms of positioning the league, do you kind of see it competing with international leagues like the Premier League? Or are you positioning it against domestic leagues like the IPL, which are far more endemic to an Indian audience?
It's really incredible what the IPL has done in such a short time, and tremendous credit to everyone involved in that league, as well as many of the other leagues. I mean, the IPL was less than 15 years old. The concept of 2020, I think, is less than 20 years old. ISL also doing very well, is only 6 or 7 years old. The Pro Kabaddi League, 7 years old. None of this existed just 15 years ago. And now there are huge media partnerships, there are sponsors, millions of fans. This is all great news for us. The Indian sporting landscape is growing along with this interest. The country has more than 1 billion people. As you said, it's a growing middle class, increasing disposable income, a median age of 28. We don't see us as competing with anyone. Our focus is on teaching kids how to play and enjoy sport so that they can follow it as they grow up. I think the country is still early on in developing a sporting culture. Cricket, of course, goes way back, but all these additional sports, all these leagues, based on what I've seen so far, there's plenty of room for basketball in India, and we're committed to make sure that kids have an opportunity to play it, and our fans have an opportunity to follow it in a lot of different ways.
Thanks, Scott. One of the things I picked up on whilst you were speaking a moment ago, of course, is how massive the Indian market is. A population of 1.3 billion, incredibly diverse in so many different ways. But I know you've spoken about content, personalization, and localization in the past. Now, for the 2018-19 season, as we briefly discussed earlier, you had 75 matches being broadcast in Hindi through your partner Sony. So that's 1/4 of your reach. Could you talk to us a bit about some of the things you've introduced for personalization and localization of content for the Indian market?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is a really important component for us. When we approach any market, it is going to be unique in our approach. We want to make sure that we're developing our brand in a way that is endemic to the local culture. So, I mentioned many of our local programs in India a little while ago. These participation programs are an important component of our localization. Just as important, however, is the media piece. So, working with our partner Sony, we've introduced several specific programs, including primetime game broadcasts, the Hindi commentary, and programming specifically created for India, including NBA Around the Hoop, which is a show hosted by local influencers. So similarly on digital, we've adopted our global approach, and we are on a global basis leaders in the social media and digital space of engaging our fans. But we've now tailored that to a local audience using Facebook and Instagram in particular. In fact, since the restart of the NBA season a few months ago, we've added over 120,000 new followers on Instagram in India. That's the largest growth of any country in the world. So moving forward, this will be a focus for us. We plan to further localize our content across all forms of media, ensure that our content is relevant and accessible for an Indian audience. And it really helps that our fans are extremely passionate and that they provide us regular feedback. We are always getting very specific suggestions as to what we should be doing and how we can engage them better. So we'll keep listening and keep innovating.
Great stuff. Thank you, Scott. I mean, certainly lots and lots of passionate fans in India, and there's a lot of optimism about the Indian market. Now, we all kind of saw the Gateway of India, which is an iconic monument in Mumbai, being lit up in NBA colors when the two teams visited back in 2019. And now, with the LA Lakers winning the championship, you saw tweets from Bollywood superstars, from cricketers, from journalists, from people from all walks of life. So there's certainly opportunities in the Indian market and a lot of optimism. But it's also somewhat perceived as a bit of a tricky market at times. So what are some of the unique challenges you've faced in India?
I think no matter how long I work on India, I will always be able to say the words, I still have a lot to learn about the Indian market. So there's no question it can be a challenging market. But I look at India in a similar way to the way I look at Asia. It's a group of unique markets with geographic proximity. We adjust our approach between Thailand and Japan, and we do the same between Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, and Rajasthan. Now, in some parts of the country, like Kerala, basketball is very popular, and other areas less so. Language is an important element as well, as there are more than 20 constitutionally recognized languages in the country. What's amazing about India, however, is the innovation and the scale, the opportunity. We're still relatively new in the country. Yet, as you said, we have more than 90 million viewers tuning into the NBA program last year. We have more than 1.3 million users participating in our NBA fantasy game through our partnership with Dream 11. We've engaged more than 11 million boys and girls across 13,000 schools through the Reliance Foundation Junior Mba Program. And we have more than 3 million followers on the NBA India Facebook page. So again, we're just getting started. And these are kind of the numbers that we're talking about. It's hard to fathom the opportunity here, but we're really excited about it.
No, it does really sound like exciting times going forward. And at this stage, I'd like to introduce a question from the audience. So this one comes in from Raghav Mehta, and the question he has is perhaps not just exclusive to the Indian market. So Raghav's asking, how do you plan to overcome the challenge of NBA games not being broadcast during primetime slots in most Asian markets?
It's not exclusive to Asia, that challenge. I mean, we have that challenge in Europe, and we have that challenge in Africa as well. And the great thing about the NBA audience is it's young, it's tech savvy, and they engage with us in so many different ways. Live games, it's amazing that people wake up early. I mean, in India, we have people waking up at 5:30, 6:30 in the morning and watching games. In Europe, 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning. So we'll always make sure live games are available, and that will always be a key. way to engage with our fans. But our players and our league, we are authentic in so many different ways, in music, in fashion, in technology, in gaming. All of those things are elements that will use our fans. And India and Southeast Asia, and really most markets, but Asia in particular, have really adopted social media in big ways. The numbers for across Facebook and Instagram and Line really play to our strength. And we will continue to find the right kind of content to engage them, whether it's hosted programming talking about the game, highlights, instructional, or kind of deep dives into the personalities of our players, because they're really good at this too, and not only on the NBA handles, but on their own handles. They're really engaging and really exciting. So we're lucky that we have all of that to work with, and hopefully that'll keep our fans engaged for the long term.
No, indeed, Scott. Thanks for that. I mean, there's so many aspects of the NBA that are being capitalized on at the moment, and of course, pique the interest of so many different audiences. You've mentioned fashion, you mentioned lifestyle, music, even the work of players in different communities. Of course, is an extremely important aspect of the NBA. And kind of sticking to both your work in the community as well as younger audiences, I now want to change tack and talk about the Junior NBA program, which I know that you've introduced in both India as well as other markets. But just before we dive straight into that discussion, I believe there is a video we have about the Junior NBA. Let's perhaps have a look and catch a brief glimpse of what you've been up to in recent times.
Junior NBA is huge, the game of basketball.
The younger basketball players, no matter where they're from in the world,
they're next up, you know what I mean? They're our future.
Passing that information on to the kids, getting them at that early stage.
If you teach them at a young age, how to do things the right way, the sky's the limit for them.
Some really good stuff there, Scott. Talk us through the Junior NBA program. I'm aware that you've got some really interesting figures in terms of millions of children reached worldwide. What's your vision for this program?
This is a really exciting element of what we do. The Junior NBA, it's the league's global youth development program. It's for boys and girls and really teaches the fundamental skills as well as the core values of the game. So we use the Junior NBA platform to influence the youth basketball landscape. And we really want to make sure that when you're teaching basketball, you're teaching it the right way, and that young players, coaches, and parents enjoy the experience of sport. And they learn the positive values. And we talk about the STAR values, which are sportsmanship, teamwork, a positive attitude, and respect. We want kids to leave this understanding that it's important to lead an active and healthy lifestyle. So the messages go way beyond basketball. And I mentioned the 11 million kids in India that we now have engaged. In the rest of in Southeast Asia, we have another 25 million boys and girls that are participating in the program in some way. So we work closely with local and national governments and the school system. And again, I'll say it one more time, this is free program. It's free for the schools, it's free for the kids. All the resources available are being provided by the NBA. And our goal is to build a sustainable ecosystem around basketball by focusing on training the trainers. And those trainers are the teachers in the schools. they're the ones, whether they're teaching math or history, that are going down to the physical education program and teaching kids how to play basketball. And we want to make sure that they really understand what it means and how they can influence the lives of kids beyond just kind of throwing them a ball or giving them a jump rope and telling them to go have fun. So the Train to Trainers program is called the Junior MBA Coaches Academy, and that has trained more than 73,000 teachers from 53,000 schools across Southeast Asia. Most recently, we partnered with the government of Jakarta to incorporate the Junior NBA basketball and fitness curriculum into 3,000 elementary, middle, and high schools across Jakarta. So they're now using our curriculum to teach phys ed. So that'll reach more than 1.5 million students. And to show you the level of commitment, the governor of Jakarta is at our events, and he might be our biggest booster on social media, posting photos of himself being at the events and with the kids. So that's always helpful as well. So while the Junior MBA program varies from country to country, the local partnerships are critical and make this all work. In India, we run the program in partnership with the Reliance Foundation, and their support has allowed us to grow the program at an even faster rate. So globally, the program reaches more than 60 million boys and girls in 75 countries. And over the last few years, we've introduced the Junior NBA Global Championships, which in the first few years took place in Orlando. So it's a youth basketball tournament for 13 and 14-year-old boys and girls teams from around the world. And I think it was just last year, the Asian boys team became the first international team to defeat a U.S. team. So that was really exciting. And this year, we had to move the program, of course, to a virtual experience. And we used the mobile basketball training app Home Court. And the Asia Pacific team had the boys champion, a young man from the Philippines. He won it all. So the program is really complex. It varies in every single country depending on what the needs are. And it's so unique. I could really talk about this one all day, but I just want to share one anecdote that I think summarizes the experience. For me, it really summed it up. So I was standing next to our Asia head coach, Carlos Baroka, at a program in Indonesia. And he looks at me and he goes, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" And I'm looking and I just see kids doing layups. And he goes, "Look at the teacher. Look at the teacher, what the teacher's doing." And after whether it was a young boy or a girl hit the layup, the teacher would run over, give a big high five, encourage the kid to, say it was great. And he goes, that wasn't happening in the past. That's what we're trying to get them to do. We want that encouragement. We want the kids to understand that they're doing something fun. They're enjoying this experience, so that even if they don't become a professional basketball player or professional athlete of any kind, they realize that sport can be fun and enjoyable, and that they can learn things just by participating. So that was a big moment for me, and I'm sure Coach is watching, and he's heard me say that before. So it's a great experience.
No, that's really heartening to hear, and it's such a wide-reaching program. But also the fact that, given the circumstances of the pandemic, you were able to pivot and introduce a virtual Junior NBA is perhaps even more impressive given the circumstances. Now, sticking to the theme of younger audiences, Scott, and something that we saw a lot of this year due to the lockdown was, of course, esports and gaming. Now, the NBA was the first American league to actually introduce an official esports league, which is the NBA 2K League. And we also saw the NBA 2K League reach linear TV screens on ESPN2 earlier on this year. So what are some of the esports and gaming initiatives that you've kind of introduced to attract younger audiences and Gen Z in the APAC region?
Yeah, this is another area where we as a league have moved aggressively. I mean, I mentioned before, the NBA audience is young, it's tech savvy, it's active in gaming, and NBA 2K as a product is just incredible and continues to expand every year. The experience gets better, whether it's on console, PC, or mobile device. In Asia, we have a bunch of gaming partnerships in place, and we expect to add more in the next 12 months. But when we launched the NBA 2K League, it was in partnership with our teams. Several of our teams, about 17 of our teams started, and now we've added several more. But just last year, we added our first international team in partnership with Gen G. So, this as a property was already gaining traction. But during the hiatus of our season, when all live sport, in-arena live sport, was shut down, our partner in the US, ESPN, started airing our 2K League games. And it was really incredible, the audience, the viewership that we saw around those games. And we've also done many other partnerships to distribute those games. And one of the most exciting is actually in India with a company called Pocket Aces. And they're a leading digital entertainment company focused on mobile video. And we're working with their esports streaming platform called Loco. But they have other services as well. In total, the company has a network is reaching more than 500 million monthly views. That's what they're achieving, more than 500 million monthly views. It's one of the fastest growing apps in the country, and I think they're now over 23 million registered users. So we're really excited about that partnership. We just got that done kind of just in the last few months, and now it's time to sit down with them and look at all the other ways to engage, because they are reaching the audience that we're reaching as well. And I think if we're working together with them and companies that we're working with in Japan and Korea and Australia, gaming is a fantastic way to connect with our audience and to expand our reach, introduce the game of basketball in the NBA more broadly. So that will continue to be a focus for us moving forward.
Thank you, Scott. And that kind of ties in really nicely with a question from the audience. So, Amit, thanks for your question. Hopefully that answers it. Now, as we approach the last 7 odd minutes that we have with you, Scott, we still have plenty to talk about. So I'll ask you a few quick fire questions going forward about other markets in the APAC region. Before I do that, I'll take one more question from the audience. This one comes in from Jonathan Patterson. And Jonathan's asking, with NBA teams like the Chicago Bulls employing agencies to find international sponsors, does the NBA use a similar model of external agencies, or do you handle it internally across APAC? And if so, why?
I don't know that we're limited in any way. Our approach is whatever the market itself dictates and whatever we think is the best opportunity. So in some cases, we work with agencies, and in other places we don't. I mean, the NBA is we have over about 300 people based in Asia. So we are fully equipped to work our way around the region, and we've been here for a long time. We opened our first Asian office in 1991. So we believe that we have the right people, and we have enough people to be able to achieve what we need to achieve here. But we're always open to a discussion with a company or an individual that might have an idea that could help enhance the business. And we work with companies in every single market, and those partnerships are critical to our success. So if there's an idea and there's an opportunity, we're here ready to listen, and who knows, maybe there's something out there that we can do together.
Great stuff. Thank you, Scott, and thank you for your question, Jonathan. And now let's move on to other markets in APAC. Now, at the moment, Scott, you have greater distribution in the APAC region than you've ever had. You have over 25 media partners. One of those media partners happens to be Rakuten, and you have a fairly extensive media and commerce partnership with them. Could you tell us what you've observed since that partnership kicked in?
Yeah, working with Rakuten has been incredible. I mean, they are a very entrepreneurial organization. They didn't have, before they did our partnership with us, didn't have a tremendous amount of media experience, but they are very fast learners, and we have a lot of exciting stuff. But before I jump into Rakuten, just to talk about Japan just a little bit, it's really, the amount of activity around basketball that's happening right now is really exciting. Since the launch of the local league a few years ago, we've had 2 players join the NBA, Rui Hachimura and Yuta Watanabe. We've returned to Japan with 2 games last October. It's so hard to believe that was just 1 year ago. The Olympics are coming, and basketball will be featured as a premier sport. And then in 2023, the FIBA World Championships are coming back to Asia and Japan along with Indonesia, and Philippines will be part of that as well. So, the partnership with Rakuten is really about making sure that we can deliver our content in the way that Japanese fans want to engage with us. So last year we introduced a brand new service called NBA Rakuten, and the new home of the NBA in Japan. So they offer 2 games a day in local commentary, and they have lots of original programming, including the Daily 9, which is a daily show featuring highlights and analysis of NBA teams. And we want to educate our fans and attract new followers. Also, Rakuten launched a live chat and a forum featuring local personalities. And again, the design is to encourage fan engagement within the platform, and really importantly, given the number of subscribers that all Rakuten services have, I mean, it's nearly the entire country. Rakuten now, our fans are allowed to use Rakuten points to use the services on NBA Rakuten. So that just opens the conversation up to millions of people that may not yet have tied together their love of basketball and their love of the NBA. So as a result of this, we grew our OTT subscribers over 600% compared to the previous season. And Japan now has the largest NBA OTT subscriber base outside the US and China. So we're really just getting started with Rakuten. We have a long-term partnership. We've only been at this for a few years. We have a lot of ideas that they're bringing to us and we're bringing to them. And I'm sure we'll be introducing many new elements to the partnership this season.
Great stuff, Scott. You've also introduced 16 matches with Japanese commentary using Rakuten, and of course, the interactive features, which almost signal a move towards the Twitchification of sport, which is something that has been discussed quite extensively. But kind of sticking to the theme of personalization, the Philippines at the moment is the #1 market outside of the US in terms of your Facebook following. Could you tell us a bit about the Republica Huddle and a few more personalization that you've introduced for that market, quite briefly?
Sure. So we always refer to the Philippines as the highest basketball affinity market in the world. When we look at our digital statistics on a global basis, Philippines is always the #1 international market, and our fans there just simply cannot get enough NBA. During the hiatus, we established several new partnerships in the country. We partnered with Signal to bring a comprehensive package of NBA programming, including NBA TV Philippines, a 24-hour dedicated channel to our fans there. We've partnered with Titan to launch our e-commerce site in the country, and Titan has just done a tremendous job of engaging our fans and making sure they have unique and innovative products available there. So we're just truly excited to continue to develop there. One of the other things you mentioned, Republica, that's really, I guess one of our newest programs that was also introduced during the hiatus, and something we're really proud of. There's so much basketball taking place in the Philippines. The PBA, the local basketball league, is currently operating their bubble right now, and we wish them success in getting through the conference. But you also have the UAAP and the NCAA, 2 college competitions, youth competitions going on at every age level, and a local league in nearly every barangay. So our Facebook page has more than 8 million followers from the Philippines, and as I said, it's the #1 country outside the US. So we introduced NBA Republica Huddle in April of this year on our Philippines Facebook page, and it's hosted by local influencers and sports personalities discussing the latest events in and around the NBA. So our hosts, Nico and Boom, they're doing a great job navigating all kinds of topics, and it's varied from a recap and a discussion around the Last Dance documentary series about the Chicago Bulls, to more recently interviews with Coach Monty Williams, Portland Trailblazer guard CJ McCollum, and just last week, NBA Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum. And Filipinos are so knowledgeable about the NBA. I don't think we'll ever run out of content ideas. Right? The program's a great example of localization, and it'll be a model for other markets. In fact, we've already launched Courtside Huddle in Australia, which is a similar program, but of course tailored for that audience.
Great stuff. Thank you, Scott. And as we come to time, I'd like to bring this particular panel discussion to a close with one bold prediction. It could be about any of the markets we've spoken about. So that's India, Japan, or the Philippines. But anything at all that kind of piques your interest or something we should keep an eye out for going forward in those markets.
So usually when people ask me to make predictions, it's who's going to win the finals. So I'm glad that that one's behind us, and I don't have to think about that. I'd say a bold prediction is going to be that we're going to have more fans in India than any market anywhere in the world within 5 years. How's that?
Well, that is absolutely brilliant, and fingers crossed that happens. Thanks very much indeed, Scott, and thank you all for your questions. It truly has been a deep dive into the NBA's India and APAC strategies, and we hope you found it informative, engaging, and insightful. It's also been a pleasure to moderate. Thank you all for tuning in and being such an engaged audience. And I'd like to say a huge thank you once again to your speaker, Scott Levy, Executive Vice President and Managing Director of NBA Asia. That's all from me. Thanks ever so much for joining us. Plenty more to come at SportsPro Asia. Hope to see you all soon. Have a lovely rest of the week. Thank you and goodbye.